Anyway, so when students of penetration penetrate to the end, welcome back. This is Chicken Philosophy. The I Ching, Part 7, in which we will continue the I Ching, studying project thingy. And that was a little awkward. Normally I would say we pick up where we left off, but we're kind of picking up where we left off, but it's much more of a serpentine sort of like we're weaving our way through the I Ching until we feel satisfied with the amount of I Ching we've woven ourselves through, which is a little bit different than starting on page 1 and reading until you get to the end of the book. That's a little more cut and dry. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, I'm your host, Frater BT, and if you're not seeing a yellow stripe and a white stripe up above my head, then do please feel free to click the corner of your screen and maximize the screen so that you're not seeing all this YouTube junk down here, but instead you're seeing the whole picture. And that way, when I point down here and say this is a white and yellow episode, you'll see a square with it's better. It's a lot better. Like, if you don't maximize it, then all the shit that I do in here, it just looks like cut off, and what's the point, That's my opinion on the matter. So yeah, back after a little bit of a hiatus. We were down in South Goa celebrating Piyu's birthday. So she has just put up a video that I will link you to, and you can check that out now or later, and feel free to subscribe to her channel. That was sort of like highlights from the week. She's moving into the next step, like a Pokemon evolution into a new type of video rather than shorts. It's a longer form. Landscape orientation as opposed to portrait orientation, or we tend to call it vertical and horizontal. Anyway, all right. What else? Anything else before I begin? Yes. Yesterday, we, got the ball rolling in the form of a Buddhist Books episode because it was time for that. So, for those who are new, hi. I'm gonna bore you to death. This show got a little too popular with that Divine Pymander and that Nag Hammadi before, mostly Divine Pymander. A lot of people subscribed, and so it makes me uncomfortable because I feel like, there's some standard that's been achieved, and people saying this is what I like about this, and it's like, okay, cool. So let's do none of that. Let's withdraw any amount of effort. The thing is, it wasn't effort. It was sort of an accidental alignment. So we got this wheel here, and right now we're on the white pedal. So the alignment is Frater BT because it rotates every 3. There's me, Gwydion, Edward. Well, it goes Edward, Gwydion, then me, and then there's the thing. So before the white pedal was I Ching, it was Tao Te Ching. And so we read the Tao Te Ching, right? Makes sense. Pretty straightforward. But the white pedal started with the secret of the golden flower. That's the secret of the golden flower. What's the point? So for a while, originally it was Buddhist books. It was all Buddhist books podcast all the time. And I don't know how many times I've pointed to the corner. I'm only allowed to point 5 times. And then after, I don't know, a year and a half of Buddhist books basically every day, we introduced Chicken Philosophy, and then that was like such a relief. I'm oversimplifying, like, obviously there were more subtle processes that we all went through. By we all, I mean me. But long story short, for the past, I think at least 2 or 3 months, we've been very strict about one Buddhist books for every 2 chicken philosophies. And so yesterday it was time for a Buddhist books. Now it's time for 2 chicken philosophies. This one, and after this will be a green and blue one. Edward reading Nag Hammadi. Edward reading Meccan Revelations. So that's the Sufi part of the wheel. Anyway, so yesterday was Zen, and it was Shobogenzo, which normally I'd be like, oh yeah, the best part. Dogen has his days where he's on fire, and he has his days where it's like, what were you meaning to say with all that? Where it's like, there's only so much that can be chalked up to like translation issues. Maybe it is translation issues. By that meaning from Japanese to English, but also from 1200s to 2026. So some of it might be like, And there's a little bit of like a Zen thing that, not just in Japanese. And there's a whole thing. There's layers and layers. Where I'm very fond of Shobogenzo, but I notice some sort of passive-aggressive, like microaggressions coming from white folks who are like, oh, well, I like Tibetan Buddhism, and I don't like that samurai-influenced Japanese version of very strict, just sit there Buddhism. And I'm like, oh, that's the one I prefer, actually. I'm into the Tibetan one because of the aesthetic and because of the association with my dad. But as far as like what I would consider to be like an actual path to serenity, for me personally, I would much rather the discipline of sitting still, gazing at a wall for 10 minutes, rather than, oh, which Dakini are we gonna, imagine is in the room with us today? Like, that's much more of like a, oh, yeah, playtime. Let's remind ourselves what Buddhism evolved into eventually. Oh my God, how weird, Same with the Mormons. No, I'm just throwing that in just to be weird. Anyway, enough about free associated nonsense. The point is, yesterday, the Zen part 16 was Dogen. And the next Dogen is going to be in a month, because that's how it is. There's a 10-spoked wheel where we have the 15 permutations of the different color combinations. Over here they've got the 10 spokes of the wheel, and most of them are Tipitaka, and then every time there's an 8. So yesterday was episode 308. So when it's 318, I accidentally peeked ahead. I try not to peek ahead, but it's the lecture or whatever thing he wrote called Existence Time. It's actually called Uji, and then some people have translated it being but for a little while, and so these translators were like, no, it's Existence Time, so we're going to call it Existence Time. And I'm like, Existence Time? Ooh, yeah. Flight of the Conchord, man. Existence Time. Existence Time. Okay. All right. I think that's about enough out of me about these sorts of things. Oh, I don't know if you noticed. This was my mom's. My mom was an architect. Here's some of her stuff that she did. I don't know what you're seeing. Probably the Bonds Pavilions thing. I don't have a lot of. I have some things, but they're mostly rolled up. I haven't scanned or taken pictures of all of them. So this was her ruler, and it won't roll at all. See, because it's triangular. And even if it did roll and fell on the floor, it'd just make a sound. It's plastic. So those who remember the rose quartz wand will understand a fuller picture about that. It rolled off the table and broke. It was very sad. And this has meaning. The architect, the masons and architecture and shit, there's some kind of... I can't be bothered to look up the name of the architect. He had a name, didn't he? Editor Edward, could you put the name of the Mason architect thing? He's like the guy who designed Solomon's temple or something, right? And gave it to Cyrus the Great and said, yeah, that's what it looked like. So could you rebuild it for us since that's your policy? And he did, because he was like that. I mean, it's an interesting time period. I mean, historically, not just biblically. So, okay. All right. Today's beverage is apple cinnamon, because I'm doing it, it's like 6 a.m., I think. I'm doing an experiment where I don't immediately start taking uppers, as in caffeine and Nicotex. Nothing too crazy. But that's like leaning toward crazy. It's not like waking up and doing a bump, though, you know. Cheers. All right, that's nice. And for today's incense, we'll see how long it lasts. I mean, we'll see if I go the whole day, if I go an hour, I don't know. But it's a step in the right direction, I think. I mean, longtime viewers will notice that this isn't the first time that I've gone through one of these phases, but cedar, Morningstar brand cedar wood. Okay, so I know what you came here for, but that's unrelated to what I'm doing. See, that's what happens, is when an episode's good and people subscribe, I'm like, okay, I have to give 0 fucks or negative fucks about the next episode in order to bring myself into the right zone that I was at, established very early on, not necessarily in that actual first episode, but kind of implied in that first episode. That first episode was a little bit performative and overly concerned about how it was going to be received. But within 2 or 3 episodes, I was like, okay, 0 fucks given, no editing. Now we do editing. Now, I can't do anything about that, but don't be fooled by the editing or by the color saturation. This is something I'm doing purely for fuck's sake, for the fun of it, and I'm enjoying it, and some other folks seem to be enjoying it as well. But when people enjoy it too much, there seems to be a little bit of a barbed edge to it, like, I enjoy this specific thing that you're doing for these reasons. And I'm like, oh, okay, let me make a note of that and never do those things again. You know, like, and so I have my end of it that is not necessarily like the standard, like, oh, you like it? Oh, okay, I'll do that again. Like, you know, sort of puppy trying to, you know, trick the algorithm by way of the human minds into more views, more money, that kind of thing. And with all due respect to people who make this their living, that is not my intention or aspiration. Much the opposite. It's an art form for me. So, and the sort of artist where yeah, well, you don't like it? Well, fuck off and get out of my art gallery. Nah, not like, oh, you don't like it? Well, what could I do to improve it? Like, next time I make an art piece, should I use more green, or would you like it then? You know, like, no, not that kind of artist, you know. I'm not saying that kind of artist exists. What am I talking about? Okay, so we're doing I Ching today. Did you know today was about the I Ching that you didn't know? So, the first thing we do when it's yellow and white, yeah, I mean, yellow and white and blue and white are very similar on chicken philosophy. Red and white is something else entirely, and if you're new, you'll find out about that later, if you stick with me. See, each of the 15 are a different type, and then each of that type are different from each other because of the passage of time, my mood, the weather, etc., and the specific words that happen to be on the page in the case of reading books, or the specific I Ching figures that come out in the case of the I Ching white petal episodes. So these are the these are the figures that we haven't yet stuck up on the screen as our guiding light principle for the day. which is something we did for Secret of the Golden Flower, for Tao Te Ching, and now that we're actually doing I Ching as the white petal focus, then something, I don't know. Where we're also doing the red and white episodes. Gwydion, when it's Gwydion's turn to do I Ching, then he does a reading. So that's what that's about. So I shuffled these slightly. And it's figure 63. From the bottom up, it's solid, broken, solid, broken, solid, broken. And so I'm going to go ahead and put that right about there. And yeah, so let's look that up. So the trigram on top is water, which we've gone over, and the trigram on bottom is fire, which you are now seeing for the first time in the form of a square image of a trigram on Chicken Philosophy. This is its debut, and I have resolved that we will get to this today. But not first. Okay, so water on top, fire on bottom. But I could just figure 60. But I wanted to do that because now that we're going over a substantial amount of the trigrams, then I can draw attention to and we can think about them. So fire on top, right? Water on bottom? No, water on top, fire on bottom. So these are the two trigrams that are here. And this is the card from the Swiss Guys deck. So for this card thing that we do at the beginning, we just do like very briefly, and then we'll go over it in depth at a future date. Chi-Chi, those of you who speak Spanish. After completion, on the Chi-Chi, sorry. Good fortune unfolds for those who remain on guard against inferior influences. All right. Okay. All right. I feel like in the past I've like certain things would come up and then I would like be like, okay guys, you know, when it says Aryan here, it's not referring to like the past 100 years usage of the word. This is an ancient thing. Like, and then eventually it got to the point where it's like I'd stopped to talk about it so many times in various videos over the years that I stopped even mentioning it and I just moved forward. And then as an after that, I'm like, do you think people will get confused and think I'm talking about the bullshit way that like Nazis and Americans use the word Aryan or whatever, who cares, you know, just move on. Same with superior and inferior in the I Ching. Hitler gave a bad name to the swastika, to concepts like superior and inferior. I mean, him and those in his camp. You know what I mean? So, inferior influences like, let's say, like, you know, a minor irritation or like, you know, you got too much on your mind, too many things, plus you're sleepy and so you're irritable. And, you know, like this would be an example of an inferior influence where artistic inspiration and divine artistic inspiration and you know, prophetic, I don't, you know, I'm just throwing words out there, but you know what I mean? throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks. These superior influences, maybe, I don't know, just like goodness, charitable compassion, perhaps, or whatever, Cheers. All right, so all of that by now has been absorbed into that, and now we can move on with what today is about. And today, first, we're going to be focusing on the trigram called wind. I don't know how Editor Edward is going to depict wind. I have a feeling it might be moving, but is there going to be a still image version of it? I don't know. We'll leave it to his creativity. What do you think? I don't know what you're seeing above my head, but that's wind. So real quick, let's remove the wind and we'll leave that and we'll work around it. So far, we've gone over Chien, which is heaven, which is somewhere on the screen. I'm leaving it up to Editor Edward, without restricting it too much by going, it's there, and then he has to go, oh, why did he point there? That's so stupid. Anyway, Chen, which is thunder, right? Khan, or Ka'an, water. Ken, which is mountain, and earth, which is kun, which is earth. That's what we've gone over so far. So Chien, Chen, Kan, Ken, Kun. Chien, Chen, Kan, Ken, Kun. All right, there's going to be a test later. So now we're going to go over Sun. I'm going to assume that's Sun. It's spelled S-U-N. I think in the past I've been like, sun. Oh, it's sun. And I think I even thought it meant the big ball of that bright stuff in the sky. People are like, it's not fire. Okay, it's plasma. Never mind. Fire, loosely speaking, in the ancient elements kind of, we can still use words that have been repurposed. Words have many meanings, like the alethiometer thing. You gaze at it and go, oh, well, sometimes a camel means this, but I think today it means this. You know what I mean? No, that's fine. All right, so we're going to go over, in order to go over wind, the trigram, what we're going to do is we're going to read all about wind, the hexagram, which is wind on top of wind. See how that works? So double wind, wind, and I'm guessing it's going to be a figure called Sun, not S-O-O-N, but S-U-N, so Sun, 57. Okay, Sun, the gentle, parentheses, the penetrating. Editor Edward, could you play that clip from yesterday's Buddhist Books podcast? And someone who has penetrated one real Dharma has penetrated the myriad Dharmas. You penetrate one, you penetrate them all, like my dad used to say, but that was unrelated. Sorry, I'll just keep reading. And he didn't say that. That was just... Someone who has not penetrated the myriad dharmas has not penetrated one real dharma. If you haven't penetrated all of them, you haven't penetrated one of them. Okay, I mean, maybe in this context. Anyway, so when students of penetration penetrate to the end, yes, so a bit of a theme going on. And again, words have many meanings, so... Between the sheets, words have one meaning, and in polite discourse between us, what's the word, civilized adults, never mind, I have another meaning, the penetrating, comma, wind, the penetrating, comma, punctuation marks, and their shenanigans, no, none of these things. Consistent correctness. Call me Frater Consistent Correctness BT. That's my middle name. Consistent correctness turns every situation to your advantage. Every situation. All right. So the image of this hexagram is that of a gentle wind dispersing storm clouds. A wind that changes direction often. 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 We'll go with often. No need to pronounce the T that should never have been there to begin with. Even a very powerful one will disperse nothing. Oh, a wind that changes direction often, even a very powerful one will disperse nothing. I beg to differ. If a very powerful wind came and changed direction often, it would disperse stuff. I mean, maybe not 100% as much as like a wind blowing in one consistent direction, like a powerful wind for like hours might blow all the clouds out, where if it comes in and blows this way, that way, it just might make all the clouds look all fucked up. So okay, I see the point of the metaphor, but these absolutes, I don't know. A wind that changes direction often, even a very powerful one, will disperse nothing. It only stirs up the sky. The wind that causes real change is the one that blows consistently in the same direction. There is an important lesson for us in this example. When faced with a difficult problem to resolve or a goal we wish to achieve, we often are tempted to take striking and energetic actions. Though it is possible to achieve temporary results in this fashion, they tend to collapse when we cannot sustain the vigorous effect. More enduring accomplishments are won through gentle but ceaseless penetration. Yeah, that's how you win. Whatever that was. Enduring accomplishments. Okay. Gentle but ceaseless penetration. Like that of a soft wind. Blowing steadily in the same direction. The truth of the sage, the truth of the sage, penetrates to us in this way. Thank you. See, Brian Brown Walker has the sort of name that you can tell he would be like, maybe I should put 2 here, so rather than saying, oh yes, it penetrates us quite satisfyingly, it penetrates to us. People go, well, yeah. All right, different mental image, right? And this hexagram comes now to remind you that this is how you should seek to penetrate to others. Not penetrate others. That would be weird. The sage, I try to penetrate others the way the sage penetrates me. Officer, Your Honor. So can I go now? Because the advice given to you by the I Ching is threefold. First, establish a clear goal. The wind that continually changes direction has no real effect. Secondly, apply the principle of gentle penetration to yourself. By eliminating your own inferior qualities, you earn an influence over others. All right. Third, avoid aggressive or ambitious maneuvers like now. These are rooted in desire and fear and will only serve to block the aid of the creative with a capital C. The desirable influence is the one that flows naturally from maintaining a proper attitude. Yeah. Oh, goody. In your interactions with others, bend like the willow. Is that for being penetrated, or penetrating others. I mean, I guess both, probably, now that I think about it and visualize various scenarios. Continuing, by remaining adaptable, balanced, accepting, and independent, and by stealthily moving in a single direction, you gain the clarity and strength that make possible a series of great successes.
Great success.
Thank you, Borat. It's good to see you. It's been a little while. We need more Borat in our lives. No, just in chicken philosophy. Okay, so now we're going to go line by line. So if I had rolled a 9 instead of a 7, right? And then a 6 instead of an 8, right? So the changes thing. So the first line, if it were a 9 instead of a 7, it'll make sense if you've been keeping up or started it at episode 1 or are already a little bit familiar with most of this. First line, you must be as resolute as a warrior against doubt and mistrust. When you can advance in correctness, do so. When you cannot, retreat without hesitation. No penetration for you. At least not with... Now, the second line. Okay, second line. So if I rolled a 6 instead of an 8, right? Second line. A hidden enemy threatens. Search your subconscious for negative influence. I like that you called out that's the first place you should check for a hidden enemy isn't, oh, crystal ball, oh, where's the hidden enemy out there on the horizon? It's my Aunt Sarah, she's sending me Nazar again, like, or maybe continuing, the aid of a counselor can be beneficial in this. Yeah, maybe talk to somebody, good friend, or okay. Third line. So this is if you rolled a 9 instead of a 7, right? Third line. When your insight penetrates to the source of the problem, do not dwell on it. The ego will become entangled. Simply make the necessary correction and persevere in it. Yeah, don't get all tangled up, ego tangled in it. Like, this is who I was, but now this is who I am. Who I am is being other than who I was. Who am I? Like, okay, all right, just correct it. Just move on. Fourth line. So if you rolled a whatever instead of a whatever, a 6 instead of an 8. When we are resolutely modest, independent, and correct, our external difficulties magically pass away, and success is assured. I've noticed that. There's something about the law of attraction or something. All right. So, fifth line, if you rolled a 9 instead of a 7. The beginning has not been good, but progress is still possible. Carefully disengage from bad habits and remain steadfast in following proper principles. Things change for the better. Okay, and the top one, 6th line, if you roll a 6 instead of an 8. Sometimes the inferior enemy cannot be identified. Do not struggle, but quietly return to improving yourself. In this way, a good result can still be obtained. Well, shit. All right, so that all that stuff we read about this hexagram called wind was in order to help us get a clearer picture of this trigram called wind, so that as we move forward and we say, oh, the trigram on top is wind, the trigram on bottom is whatever, then hopefully that will help us to, I don't know, give us something to think about at least. So now we've got these, however many, 6, right? And we are officially, because I said we were going to, because it came up earlier and I made that declarative. So we've got 1 left. 1 left. All right. I'm not going to concern myself with how that's going to affect future episodes. I'm just going to go ahead and do it. So this is Li, the hexagram called fire. You remember it from earlier. Here is it when it's animated. Here is it as a still image that we're going to be using going forward. So, Li, fire. And when Li is on top of itself, it looks like this. Li on top of Li is a hexagram that I'm guessing is going to be called Li, based on the pattern so far. Yes, Li, the clinging. Fire. When you think fire, you think like burning or something. Clinging? All right. Hey, don't make noise. Okay. Cling to the power of higher truth. Higher. Words have multiple meanings. Hey! Hey up there! What's true for you? If I slip, I'll fall 50 stories. Okay, I'll cling to that as I walk around down here. No, that also is not exactly probably what they mean. Anyway, I'll just keep reading, shall I? It is the nature of being human that we are dependent in many ways. Dependent on water, air, and food. For nourishment, not for penetration. What is this then? Stupid movie. Going back. The apple pie, you know. You know what I'm talking about. Penetrating food. I can think of some other examples. Never mind. Dependent on shelter for warmth and protection. Dependent on each other for family life and friendship. We are also spiritually dependent. When challenges arise, each of us must have some place to turn for guidance and support. Okay. The image of the hexagram Li is that of fire clinging to the wood that it burns. Oh, yeah, that's true. Fire consumes something. Fire is dependent on fuel and oxygen, right? And a spark, presumably. I keep reading. Without a supply of fuel, there can be no fire. Likewise, a person without a source of spiritual sustenance cannot give off light in dark and challenging times. Okay. Yeah. So when everybody's starving and emaciated and there's one guy looking healthy, what the fuck's he eating? He's got a secret stash of food with which he can burn fuel and help the other emaciated people rather than sharing the fucking food. No. Sometimes, it's like, I don't know, it's like a bad example. No, it's an example that might sometimes apply and might sometimes not to the metaphor. That's the thing with metaphors, is they're metaphors. They're not an exact science. That's what makes them kind of fun to play with. Anyway, what was I talking about? By doing this, we obtain the aid of the higher power with a capital H and a capital P, like Hewlett-Packard, but it's higher power. You are advised to cling to proper principles now, quietly, willingly, joyfully. Cling to what is superior in yourself. Cling to the possibility of a positive outcome in the situation that faces you, no matter how unlikely it may seem. Cling to the good in others, even when it is obscured by inferior influences. That's a fucking challenge. You know, when someone's like in your face, showing you the worst of themselves, you'll be like, yeah, but I know like it's one thing when you're at home. It's one thing to have the discipline to like read something someone wrote and then be like, God, and then sit back in your chair, be like, why? Until you finally come around to, well, God, they crave a sense of community. They're making decisions that they hate and trying to convince themselves that there's some good or rightness in it, and so they're clinging to the traditions of the compromise, toward the compromises that they're making. And right now there's a fascist wave that is taking advantage of those specific traditions in that particular way, and so they're parroting what their brother said and being a bigoted asshole instead of the decent person that you remember them being a year ago. Like, weren't we talking a year ago about how everybody's, you know, like speaking the same truth in different ways and with different metaphors and different languages, and now you're all gung-ho and prideful and arrogant about your fucking groupthink in an environment where you're in the majority and people are regularly being oppressed, and now you're encouraging it, which is making me feel a disproportionate amount of anger at what you're saying. Because if someone in one of those oppressed minorities were to express a similar pride in their traditions, even using almost identical verbiage as you just used, well, I'd give them a pass. But the fact that you're using it while being in the ruling majority, about the traditions of the ruling majority, makes me hate it. I need to self-reflect. I'm the one with the problem. Okay, all right. My point is, you can do all that when you're alone and you're seeing what somebody wrote on the computer, and you have time to sit back and ponder, time to meditate, time to discuss it with another, you know. But when it's right in your face, in real time, oh, that's a challenge. Oh, that's a challenge to see the good person I know you are underneath, rather than the shitty person you're showing me with your face and your voice and your words and the smell of alcohol in your breath continuously for an hour. Like, you have to be kind of like, I don't know, in two worlds at once or something in order to be like, yes, but I know deep down you're a child of God. Oh, yes, I know, but deep down you're a good person. You have a good soul. You're just going through an ugly phase. Spiritually ugly, I mean, or emotionally, mentally, metaphorically ugly. I'm not saying like anything about their physical image. Like, oh, that makeup style, what the fuck? No. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? No, I'll keep reading. I don't know, whatever. Cling to the good in others, even when it is obscured by inferior influences. Okay. Cling to the good of others, even when it is obscured by inferior influences. And cling to the power of the deity to deliver truth where it is needed. All right. Cool. Cool. Trying times bring us the gift of showing where our devotion to proper principles ends. Yeah. Deepen that devotion now. Cling to truth and acceptance and independence, and you will meet with success. Okay, cool. It just seems a little random. And independence. Like, wait. How does that relate with the rest of what was being said? Was that thrown in by Brian just because He's like, yeah, and also I'm going to throw this in there. Or was he translating something? I don't know. Don't know. It's all new to me, so I'm a little skeptical, raising one little eyebrow. But it's okay. The first line. So if you roll a whatever instead of a whatever, I don't have it in front of me, and I'm not going to strain my brain. The first line. Do not hurry into things with incorrect thoughts or behaviors. By keeping yourself composed and correct at all times, you avoid misfortune. Now remember, that's only if you roll roll it in one particular way. You wouldn't necessarily read that line, and that wouldn't necessarily be the advice for you every time that you get the fire hexagram, only when you roll a change in the first line. If you roll a change in the second line, a 6 or a 9 instead of a 7 or an 8, right? Second line. It is a time for moderation in everything, including moderation. Oh, that's my favorite time. It's when I get to be the most extreme and wild. Ha! Ha! Everything in moderation, especially moderation. Never be totally moderated. Never right down the middle. Oh, what are you doing? Why are you being such a crazy bastard? Oh, I'm trying to avoid being too moderated, because moderation in all things is especially moderation. Am I right? Am I right? Anybody? I'm wrong? Never mind. Okay, sorry. Moderation of enthusiasm keeps you balanced. Moderation of despair deepens your understanding. Yeah. If you don't get to, there's a certain kind of happiness, there's a certain kind of peace, a certain kind of serenity, and a certain kind of enjoyment. You can enjoy something, right? And then when you get the sour, evil twin of that thing that you're enjoying, so let's say good weather. This is really nice weather. I like this. And then you get some unpleasant weather, whatever that means for you. For me, it's like if it's too hot. For some people, it's like, oh no, it's raining. I'm like, that's the best fucking weather. What's wrong with you? But you know what I mean. So like, you can be like, oh, well, not my favorite, right? And then when it is your favorite, you're like, oh, this is my favorite, right? But if you want to avoid the situation of what the weather on top of everything else that's wrong in me and in you and in the world and in history and humanity, and the weather's not even my favorite. Oh, God damn it. Life just isn't even worth living now, is it? Right? So if you want to avoid plunging to those depths, then it might be of assistance to consider avoiding being like, it's my favorite weather. There is a God. God loves me. You know, I mean, like, there's nothing wrong. You know what I'm saying? Am I making any sense? Like, don't get too happy when external circumstances are favorable. If you want to avoid getting too unhappy when they're unfavorable. So you can be a little bit, maybe, again, not too moderated, not like, oh, it is ice cream. Yes, I will eat it. Oh, it is shit. Okay, I will eat it. You know, like, not to be a total robot. I mean, now the robots are imitating humans and acting more insane than the humans are, you know, so it's... Kids these days don't even know what we mean when we're saying, don't be like a robot. You mean accurately predict what you're going to say next? No! I mean, never mind. No, what? Let's keep reading, shall we? Third line. Do not demand an end to one thing or a beginning to another. Does this relate to the penetrating? Sorry. And the chi-chis? Except that what is right comes in its own... Who's that flexible? Time. Oh, wait, what are we talking about? Except that what is right comes in its own time. Oh, I was totally misunderstanding because words have more than one meaning at times. And in this way, you are always free. In what way? Except that what is right comes in its own time. Oh, okay. Yeah, sounds like I'm not getting what I want, but I know I'll get it eventually. Just sit there and wait for that winning lottery ticket to land on your desk, right? No, it's like, okay. Fourth line. A steady mind and heart meet with success. Be content to progress step by step. Worry and agitation only slow you down. Fifth line, a true change of heart is possible when we accept the necessity of adversity. Peace comes when we discontinue the strivings of the ego. Yeah, I think another way of putting that from perhaps a slightly different angle is remembering, not necessarily like, do I remember? But no, get that there was a point where, let's say, not literally, but metaphorically, someone told you, hey, there's this roller coaster ride over here, and it's got its ups, but it's also got its downs. You interested? It's called incarnating as a human being. And you say, yeah, sure, I'll try anything once, or 10,000 times, you fucking junkie. Right? Never mind, I'll just keep reading. Sixth line, meaning the top one. Inferior attitudes must be rooted out before progress can be made. Gently replace vanity and impatience with acceptance and modesty. Yeah. Do it gently, subtly, gradually, privately. Instead of like posting on social media, from now on, I've turned over a new leaf. No, I mean, sometimes that helps, but sometimes it doesn't. All right. Like picture a guy like going into an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting to get his 5 years sober chip and like spraying Banaka so nobody smells the vodka. It's like, why did you put yourself in that situation? Like posting it all over social media. Never mind. Whatever. Anyway, I hope I succeeded in making a solidly mediocre episode of Chicken Philosophy, which I know some of you enjoyed. And the ones who didn't watch it anyway, so it doesn't matter one way or the other. Yeah, so we can move forward in life and in Chicken Philosophy. Oh, by the way, tomorrow I'm going to be interviewing this guy.
The holy blue light screen, putting in the work, manifesting the perfect portfolio. Why exercise? Why during Zestchar, the 9th hour of the night, summon Pymander, its ruling angel, and his 18 chief dukes, and 1,320 ruling attendants.
All right. That's Ben, and Joe Zabinski and I are going to be interviewing him over on my podcast, me being Frater BT, remember, Frater BT. Yeah, Joe Zabinski and I are going to talk with Ben. He has a Hebrew name. Now, some of you might be thinking, oh, he's Jewish? He worships Lilith. Well, just tune in and, get to know him. He's a good guy. I like him. That was our episode of and so for the end screen, we're gonna see Ben. We're gonna see his image on the screen, and if it's far enough in the future, in other words, if it's a day from now, if it's 1.5 days, because it's early in the morning right now. So in 24 hours, I'll be in the middle of the conversation. So I need a little bit of time to shoot the intro and outro to the episode and whatnot. What am I talking about? Yeah, so anyway, if the episode's finished, then you'll see it appear in the middle of the screen, possibly with a title, Mercy Without Restriction, or perhaps a different title. But anyway, that'll be episode 130-something, I think, of Esoteric Nerd, and it's been a while. These episodes only come out a couple times a year now. Why am I holding the book? We're done with this for today. So, click that if you see it, and if you don't, then, keep an eye on the Esoteric Nerd podcast, and it'll come out in the relatively near future. As for us here on Chicken Philosophy, Next time, it will be an episode of Chicken Philosophy, not Buddhist books, because we're at the one of the 1-2 in between the, you know what I mean. So it's going to be Edward. I mentioned it before. It's going to be a blue and green episode. Edward reading the Meccan Revelations. So I hope you have a wonderful weekend, week, whatever point in time you're at when you're watching this. I hope you have a good one, and I will see you then. All right. Until then.